Joining us from Brussels is veteran war correspondent and military analyst Elijah Magnier. Hello to you, Elijah. Thank you for joining us here on the program. Let's put that question to you. It's very difficult. 1 million people in the area, no evacuation orders were given. Where will they go? What can they do?
Thank you for having me. They can't do much, really, because for the last 23 months, the Israelis have been conducting several attack operations in the north, in the south, in the middle, in Gaza City, and shifting the population from one place to another. Many people have been displaced more than 9 times during almost 2 years. And today, there are over 1 million people in Gaza City. The battle is intensifying with the news that with the probable intention of the Palestinian Hamas to kidnap more of the Israeli forces, then the artillery and the air bombing will even increase, make sure that the troops advancing will not risk to be captured or risking high casualties. Therefore, I don't think the Israelis have high consideration where the civilian population would go next.
Yeah, and this, we should mention a famine recently declared in Gaza City. Just in the past few minutes, AP reporting that an Israeli official speaking on the condition of anonymity said that Israel will soon slow or halt humanitarian aid into parts of northern Gaza as it expands its offensive. How bad do you think things will get on the ground in regards to that famine?
Very bad, because the finance minister, Bezalel Smotrich, is telling us that he ordered the army in harmony with the prime minister, that the people who do not surrender, they will not have food and they will be shot at. So the starvation, the man-made starvation in Gaza is recognized by the United Nations and all the international agencies. Therefore, the food has been weaponized by the Israeli officials since day one. They announce it, they doing it, they showing it to us live on video that they are publishing, and they are emphasizing that the Palestinians have 2 choices: either remain, die from famine, starvation, or being killed, or being forced to leave, which is equal to ethnic cleansing. Therefore, the Palestinians in Gaza have little choice. The only thing remaining is how long this operation will continue and how much pressure the international community, that is doing very little, will try to exert on Benjamin Netanyahu in the next month, because his operation in Gaza City and the rest of the Strip is not going to end in 1 month or 2 or 5. He needs a long time to occupy the rest of the Strip, but he is heading toward it with the full support of the United States.
And let's talk about that operation. Friday, Israel very careful to not say that full takeover has begun, but the initial stages of that takeover have begun. Why make that distinction?
Well, because they divide the city in different parts. So first they took the north, and then they took Rafah in the south. They cut Gaza in different crossing, and they've started the operation today from the Netzarim crossing that divide the north from the south. So once they eliminate anyone in the north and they occupy Gaza City, this is where the Israeli ministers told us they are preparing 20 settlements for the north. So they're taking bits by bits, and Smotrich, the finance minister, said every single day that goes by, they take more Palestinian territory, and in 1 month they will take a much larger equivalent to a full settlement. Therefore, the plan of Israel is not hidden. The Israeli officials are not really hiding the truth. They're telling us this is their plan. So they take small bits to reduce the casualties. And because the number of casualties is important, this is what the chief of staff, the Israeli chief of staff, Yael Zamir was complaining about in the last few weeks, warning the government that these attacks and conquering more Palestinian land will not be achieved without high casualties. So we're waiting to see, for example, the result of last night when we heard about at least 15 casualties, and this number will continue increasing. More the Israeli occupation forces will venture into an urban area and engage with the desperate Palestinians that have no other choice but to fight back.
Yeah, and at the start of the month, there were mounting tensions among top brass at an Israeli security cabinet meeting over whether this plan was feasible or not. What happened to those tensions?
Well, they exist because since day one, Benjamin Netanyahu offered and imposed on the Israeli army impossible objectives. This is why he dismissed the previous chief of staff, Herzi Halevi, and appointed a new one, the Yael Zamir, thinking that he is going to apply whatever he tells him. However, Zamir is a professional. He's a general, and he understands what Benjamin Netanyahu is asking him to go and free the hostages is not going to happen. Therefore, the Hamas already said if the army, the Israeli army, come close to where the hostages are, they will be killed. And already we know that at least half of those who remained alive of the 20, so we're talking about between 8 and 10, are in Gaza City. Therefore, Zamir is saying, don't blame me if all these hostages, half of them will be killed, because these are my orders from the political decision in the government, and I do not share their thinking. And this is where Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, said, I am missing Herzi Halevi already, in hinting to the previous chief of staff, thinking that were more flexible to listen to what the politicians want rather than listening to what the army can or cannot achieve on the ground.
Yeah, and this Saturday, as is the case every Saturday in Israel, there are protests against the government's handling of the war and also to secure the safe release of those hostages, as you mentioned. Last Saturday, what we saw was the opposition call for Netanyahu to forge a unity government. This weekend, the protests getting underway in just a few hours' time. Do you think we'll see maybe a more tense atmosphere, given that the initial stages of this takeover have begun?
Yes, but it's not enough, because Benjamin Netanyahu is fully aware that the opposition is not strong enough, is not numerous enough to impose on him the agenda of stopping the war, free all the prisoners and the hostages, and then go for a deal that he himself forwarded to the U.S. presidential envoy, Steve Witkoff, and then rejected. So the organization of people who are against the war and the family of the hostages cannot gather a number that can match or equal to those who support Benjamin Netanyahu and want to see all the Palestinians completely out from Gaza and the West Bank, that the turn is coming next after Gaza. Therefore, I don't think the presence of the manifestation and the people in the street will convince Netanyahu to change his mind.
And real quickly, Elijah, is a massacre in Gaza City or in the north, is a massacre there inevitable?
Yes, it is, because for many Israelis, there are no civilians in Gaza. Therefore, killing indiscriminately and the collective punishment of the Palestinian civilians is something that the Israelis are not really afraid to show. When we have more than 65,000 people killed, 215,000 wounded, it means that there is very little consideration to what's happening in Gaza, including more than 200 journalists, more than those killed in the Second World War or in the war between Ukraine and Russia. So what we have seen in Gaza is nothing to compare to 1948, the Nakba, when 750,000 Palestinians were forced to flee, and it was ethnic cleansing. Today, we are observing live on videos Israeli soldiers and officers showing us how they are killing civilians, how they're shooting at hungry people, staying in the line, waiting for the food. Unfortunately, this is something that is happening without accountability for Israel, that is feeling free to do whatever it wants because there is no longer international law to abide by.
Elijah, thank you for your time. Elijah Magnier, military analyst, joining us from Brussels.